Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Marilyn Darling Show. Why isn't my face cam going? What is happening? I don't know what's going on. Why is this doing it to me? Freaking, my technology is being a dickhead lately. Alright. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Marilyn Darling Show. How is everyone doing today? Are you having a nice day? I hope you are having a better day than I am. My technology is being a freaking fully bastard. Today we're going to be talking about pressure. Not the kind that you get from your parents or your siblings, but the kind of pressure that we use when we talk about calligraphy pressure. Alright, I'm going to shrinkify myself and move myself up into this corner so we can see better. Nobody needs to see my face. Okay, there we go. That's perfect size. Perfect. Right? Okay. Alright, let's talk about pressure. Hello, Kim. How are you doing today? Are you having a nice day? Today we're talking about pencil pressure. So when we use a pencil to do calligraphy with, I'm just going to break out a piece of paper. This is Aqua B cross-section pad. If you have a favorite cross-section pad, or if you have a favorite dot grid that you want to use, great, fantastic. Use what you have. The tool that you have right now is the best tool to start with. Okay? If you have a pencil, start with a pencil. If you have a ballpoint pen, start with a ballpoint pen. I'm just folding this paper up so I can use it good. This paper was cut cockeyed, I can tell. Or maybe I'm cockeyed. Who knows? Okay. Don't want to write on that. Move that out the way. So I want to show you on this very thin millimeter line. This is okay, these are not millimeter lines. These are 1/10 of an inch lines. No, 20th of an inch line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20. So 20th. These are 20th of a millimeter, 20th of an inch lines. That means that there's finer than 1/16 of an inch. Yeah, finer than 1/16 of an inch. So if you're having question, that should give you some reference. I don't know how good of a reference that's going to be, but there you go. So here we go. Let me just adjust my stupid thing. Can I have some? Okay. All right, here we go. I'm fairly well. I have a little bit of frog in my throat, so I do apologize if I cough into the microphone. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Okay, so when we first learn about the pencil, this is a Papermate clear point 0.7 millimeter. You can use a 0.5 millimeter. You can use a 1 point whatever millimeter, just as long as it's a pencil and it's not one of the ones that rotate. So there's certain clickable pencils that are fancy pencils that do this fancy thing where every time you push down, it has a little clutch mechanism and it rotates the nib. You don't want to do that. Okay, so that's number one. So you want one that you can make an edge on. How can I demonstrate this? Do I have a blank piece of paper? Whatever, this will have to do. So your pencil lead comes out, and it usually starts off like this because you're writing with this side of the paper, right? This is your paper. Well, at a certain point, it'll get ground down, so that way it's writing with a sharper edge, and then sometimes you'll have like a rounded edge on one side of it. Okay, so that's what we're writing with. So what you're going to do is you're going to take and hold your pencil in your hand and don't move it. Okay, don't move it. Put it down. Advance the lead for however you advance the lead. And then you're going to write back and forth a little bit. And you're going to notice that you'll have a broad line. And then what you do is you watch my clip. You're going to twist your pencil just ever so slightly. And you'll have an ever so slightly thinner line. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see? So you have ever so slightly a thinner line. So you have this nice thick line, and then you twist your pencil, and the lead gets thinner. You see how that happened? So I twisted my pencil, and the lead got thinner. This is how we're going to create flex in our, or what looks like flex writing with our pen. So when we're writing, and we do the upstroke, we're going to go with the thin line up, and then we're going to use that thick line to come down. And then we'll rotate up to go thin, and then we'll use that thick line to come down. You see how I'm rotating my pencil? So, you want to make sure that you have one part of your pencil that has, so you might want to have like an extra piece of paper off to the side. This is a pretty rough type of paper. It's like just any sort of paper. You could use lined paper, just a little piece of paper off to the side so you can flatten out that edge. So I have just a little piece of paper that I can flatten off that edge. Hi Obs, how are you doing today? Today we're talking about pencil calligraphy. Okay, so now that you have a flat edge and you have your paper, you can put your paper down like this. So these are 20ths of an inch. So this is pretty precise stuff. We're going to use 1/2 of an inch, so that's 2 of these squares worth. And we're going to start on a point, so I'm going to rotate my pencil up to its point. And I'm going to do an upstroke. up to the top of that square, just bowing out ever so slightly down from that middle point. Okay, and so then I'm going to come down on the 55 with the broad side of that lead. So we're going to go up with the pointy side and then come down with the broad side. And then we're going to go right in the middle of that point and we're going to go up and through. The other way that you can create the flex look is by changing the pressure that you write with by rotating your hand into and away from the paper. But first you have to learn how to glide your pencil. So if you put your pencil down on the page and you barely touch the page, you're basically lifting the pencil. You can also make a very light hairline in the upward direction. And then when you come down, you can make sure that your lead isn't too far out. Just one click, and then you can push into the paper and make what looks like a thicker stroke, but it might not actually be a thicker stroke. It might just be that it's a more pressed in stroke. And then when you do the over and through, you can go up light, little bit of pressure release, and then just drag it through. And there we have our A. So you can practice by going up hard, up light, and then down hard. Up light, and then down hard. Then we can start with the overturn. The overturn starts up light, over, around, and then push down into the paper when you come down. The opposite for the underturn. So we're going to press down, and then we're going to curve around and come up light. And there we have our underturn. Then when we do our compound curve, we're going to go up light, curve around, a little bit of pressure release, curve around, and come up light. And there's just the tiniest little bit of pressure in there. Up, a little bit of pressure release. So up, around, a little bit of pressure release. There should be just the tiniest bit of pressure right in the middle of there. Okay, it's fairly difficult to do, but you can do it. The next one is an ascending stem loop. So we go up light, curve around, come and then press down into the page hard. There we have our ascending stem loop. Reverse for the descending stem loop. So we go press into the page. And then right about here, we start letting up. And then we barely drag our lead up to the baseline. And then the reverse descending stem loop. So we down hard, release pressure, curve around, and back up to the X height. So back up to the baseline. Now the oval is kind of like when we did this stroke here. So we go up light, a little bit of pressure release, and then back up light. So up, down with a little bit of pressure release, and then back up light. As you can see, I'm having a little trouble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that scratch piece of paper, or I'm going to go up into the corner of this paper over here, I'm just gonna, so that way I can make it the same. Okie dokie. And then the same thing goes with reverse oval. Up light, little pressure down, up light, little pressure down, let up, and then up light. It's kind of difficult. Alright, let's see. Now that we have, let's do some of the basic strokes. More of the basic strokes. So there's the C. We'll drop 2 down. Let's do the C stroke. So the C stroke, up light, curve around, down hard, and then up light. The E stroke starts in the middle of that X height, comes up to the X height light, and then a little bit of pressure release. And being able to pull the nib up towards the sky is very difficult, especially when you're trying to drag also. Then the K is up light, curve around, a little bit of pressure release into the spine, out, a little bit of pressure release, and then up to the X height. So here's our X height. Always want to mark off our X height to see where the X hits. X marks the spot. Q R. No, I'm sorry. C E K R. So the R stroke is in the middle of from the X height to the first ascender. So we're going to swoop down to the X height and then into an underturn. So we're going to press release and then press release. And you should have a nice little swell right there in the middle. And a little swell at the beginning and then a little swell in the middle. And then the S is kind of like this. We're going to press release, press release. Or you can go light, press. Oops, I broke my lead. And if you break your lead, you can hear it. You can almost hear it breaking. And we have the X stroke. So we're going to go up, over, around light. A little bit of pressure in. Oh, and see, it fell out. If you break your lead, it's no big deal. Just advance your lead a little bit. And then the Z stroke, so I'm flatten that edge out a little bit. So then the Z stroke, we're going to start at the baseline. We're going to go down hard to the first, to the second descender, and then up light back to the X height. If you do this with a pencil first, and then you advance to, say, a fountain pen or a brush pen or any other type of pen, you'll realize where you're really having to push into the page and pull up from the page. So, and then everything pretty much is a combination of all of these. So then we can start with the alphabet. Just move my thing here so I can see where my face is. Then we can start with the alphabet. Move my camera so you all can see. I'm going to start with my upstroke. So that, because we're going into an oval, I'm only going to the half, the upstroke. Then I'm going to go light up, around, down, a little bit of pressure, release, come up to the X height, and then do an underturn. just like we did here. So we should have a little bit of pressure here and a little bit of pressure here. It's very difficult. A little up. Okay. B, I'm going to start with the baseline. We're going to go in light up, and then we're going to go into an ascending stem loop, light up, hard down, light up, and then a little connection stroke. I'm doing these slightly darker so you guys can see them, but the lighter the better. Then the C stroke, we're going to go light up, scooch over, start up, a little bit of pressure, release. The D is an upstroke, half upstroke, oval, a little bit of pressure, up, a little bit of pressure, release into an underturn. E would be a half upstroke. Go directly up into our E stroke. So up, light, pressure, release. Fairly difficult. Okay, let's drop 2 down, mark off an excite. Here's our excite. F would be a light upstroke, an ascending stem loop into a reverse descending stem loop into an upstroke. G would be a half upstroke, oval with a little bit of pressure, descending stem loop, a little bit of pressure. So when we're going up, we're not pushing. And if we're pushing into a stroke, we want to make sure that we're barely holding onto the pencil to push it up. So here, this would be our first descender and second descender. And you want to put your descenders somewhere in between your first and second descender. At least for some letters. I know that most letters go to the first, past the first descender. So here we have first ascender, second ascender, first descender, second descender. And sometimes you even go down to the third descender, depending on if you're doing a flourish or not. Okay. H is a light upstroke, ascending stem loop, compound curve. I is an upstroke, an underturn, and a tittle. J would be an upstroke, descending stem loop, upstroke, tittle. That's when I put too much pressure. The great thing about pencils is you can erase them. K would be an upstroke, ascending stem loop, K loop, a little bit of pressure, a little bit of pressure. L would be an upstroke, ascending stem loop, underturn. Try and do that one a little better. So you should barely be able to see this upstroke here. The M is an overturn, overturn, a compound curve. The N is an overturn, an O compound curve. And if you see, all of these are starting to come together. You can tell where the light strokes are and the heavy strokes. O is an upstroke, oval, and a connection stroke. This one had a little too much pressure on top. P would be an upstroke, descending stem loop, and a reverse oval, and an upstroke. Q is an upstroke, an oval, and a reverse descending stem loop, and an upstroke. Try and do that one a little better. Alright. R, let's drop 2 down, mark off an X height, drop 2 down, mark off an X height. R would be an upstroke, an R stroke, and an underturn. Go down hard and light up. S would be an upstroke, a light upstroke, a little bit of pressure in the middle, and then an upstroke. T would be an upstroke, a light upstroke, 3/4 of the way up into an underturn with a cross just under the first ascender. Oh, that was a... So here we have our first ascender is here and second ascender is here. U would be a light upstroke, and then an underturn, and an underturn. V is a compound curve, and a connection stroke. W is an underturn, and a connection stroke. You see how I did the connection stroke on the outside of the letter? That's incorrect. We're going to do the connection stroke from the inside of the letter. So I almost try not to pick up my pen, and I try and go swoop in and then out. X would be the X stroke and a C stroke. And then the Y is a compound curve, and then a descending stem loop with an upstroke. The Z is an X stroke. Oops, way too dark. Light up, a little bit of pressure in, and then a Z stroke. Pressure down, light up into an upstroke. Then when we come to the capitals or majuscule alphabet, we go light up, and then hard down. And then we do a looping through. The B is a universal line of beauty with a reverse lobe, and a reverse lobe. So we're going to go universal line of beauty, light, a little bit of pressure release, and then pressure down, light up, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release. The C is a horizontal oval into a vertical oval. So we're going to go start at the first ascender, curve up, around, little pressure release, down to the X height, up to the second ascender, little pressure at the X height, and then a little pressure on the inside. Okay. Let's drop 2 down, mark off our X height. X height. D is compound curve. Universal line of beauty. Blah. And then the giant lobe. Or you do universal line of beauty down to the baseline, out 1 square, hop, and then a reverse lobe. So, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release, connect, or we do a little bit of pressure release, up, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release. 2 different ways to get the same letter, and they look totally different. E is a horizontal oval into a spiral, so we have a horizontal oval, a little bit of pressure there, come up, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release, and then we have another lobe, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure. This probably has the one with the mostest pressures, so pressure release, pressure release, pressure release, pressure release, pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different places you have to put pressure. F, universal line of beauty down to the baseline, and then lobe into a hat, light pressure. So, a little bit of pressure in the middle, and then a little bit of pressure release, up light, a little bit of pressure down, and then up light. And then we're going to cross it in the middle and then tick it down. The G is like the C, so we're going to start off with a horizontal entry over, a little bit of pressure release, up to the second descender, a little bit of pressure release, up to the X height, and then into a descending stem loop, a little bit of pressure release, and then an upstroke. So, okie dokie, let's drop 2 down, mark off an X height. X, mark the spot. H is a little compound curve at the top into a universal line of beauty down to the baseline, a little bit of pressure release, and then this is a ascending pressure stroke. So we're going to come from above the second ascender. We're going to start off light, and then as we go to the baseline, we're going to put more and more pressure in a slight angle down to the baseline. And then we're going to do a loop and through like we did with the A. So we're going to go cross, a little bit of pressure release, and then make them have a bow tie in the middle. Very handsome. The eye starts from behind the eye. So we're going to start at the first ascender. We're going to put a little bit of pressure down to the X height, curve around and go a light up to the second ascender. And then we're going to do a little bit of pressure in the middle, release. Universal line of beauty down to the baseline. The J is like an I, only bigger, so we're going to start in the middle of the X height. A little bit of pressure down to the baseline. Curve all the way up to the second ascender. And then we're going to go from the second ascender just above. And we're going to go through that. A little bit of pressure at the X at the baseline. And then back up to the baseline. So we're going to go all the way down to the second descender and then light up to the X height. Down to the second descender and then light up to the baseline. K is a little compound curve like we did with the H. So we do a little upper compound curve. And then we're going to universal line of beauty down to the baseline, putting a little bit of pressure in the middle. And then we're going to skip over a square. And we're going to go up to the first ascender. And we're going to go up to the second ascender. Curve down to the spine at the X height. And then out the same distance, a little bit of pressure. Up, so up, light, a little bit of pressure, up, little pressure, release. Up, light, a little bit of pressure, release. A little bit of pressure, release. Okay. L is a horizontal oval into a universal line of beauty. So we're going to go horizontal oval, up like we did with the C and the G. And we're going to make a little loop. And then we're going to universal line of beauty down to the baseline. Come out a little bit, hop up, down, and out. So we're going to go out, light, little bit of pressure, release, up, a little bit of pressure down to the bottom, and then a little bit of pressure at the end. M, so we're going to start at the baseline, and we're going to reverse universal line of beauty up to the second ascender. Universal line of beauty down to the baseline. And then we're going to reverse universal line of beauty up to the second ascender. And then we're going to have a giant underturn. Or you can go large upstroke, universal line of beauty down to the baseline, large upstroke, universal line down to the baseline, and then upstroke. You can also make this into an underturn. So, into an underturn. So I'm going to go light up, a little bit of pressure, light up, a little bit of pressure. Okay. N is one of the only objects that doesn't go directly on, doesn't come down with the 55, but we go up with the 55. So we're going to go up with the 55-degree angle, and we're going to go sort of a wiggle just straight down to the baseline, and then we're going to go up on the 55-degree line and then out. Only we're going to make this a little bit thinner. So up with the 55, down, up with the 55. So up light, a little bit of pressure, up light, a little bit of pressure. Okay. O is a horizontal oval into a vertical oval, so a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure in the middle. So we go from a horizontal oval to a vertical oval into like a spiral. P is a universal line of beauty down to the baseline, and a reverse lobe into the spine of the P. So we go a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release, all the way up, over, a little bit of pressure release, and in. Q is like a O. We're going to go a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure almost to the middle of the X height. We're going to come just below the middle of the X height. We're going to do a little compound curve through the wall of that O and touch the baseline into it. Just a little bit of an upstroke there at the end. So it almost looks like an H inside of the O. So that's how I make my Qs. This is the way that I do things. It may not be the way that you do things or the way that you learn things to do from other people. We are all learning our own hands. Okay, QR is like a P. So we're going to do a universal line of beauty down to the baseline, reverse lobe, and then we're going to make a leg that's like the K, out, down, and up. So, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release. Kind of looks funny when you can't really see the lines very good, but they're there, I promise. All right, let's drop 2 down, mark off next height. The S is probably one of the most complicated because we're going to come from one side of the parallelogram all the way up to the other side of the parallelogram. And almost a reverse universal line of beauty, but it's not quite. It's very wide. It's very low. Then we're going to make a loop like we did with an L. And we're going to make this touch the backbone of that S. So we're going to come up. And then we're going to go right into a spiral. These are very upright lines. The line would actually be about like this. So we would come like that. You want to lean the S on the 55 degree because it's drunk. Alright, then the T is kind of like an F without the little tick in the middle. So F, a little bit of pressure in the middle, release, a little bit of pressure, release, and then a little bit of pressure at the end. Okay? U looks like a reverse lobe into an underturn. Into an underturn. So we're going to go a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release. So we should have a little bit of pressure just in this middle area, and that's it. The V is going to be, we're going to do a little compound curve like we did with the H and the K. And then we're going to universal line of beauty down to the baseline. And then we're going to come out pretty harshly and then up in the reverse universal line of beauty. And we're going to try and do it thinner. So, sort of like that. So we have up, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure in the middle release, up light, a little bit of pressure at the end. The W is the same as the V, so we're going to go little compound curve, little pressure to the baseline. We're going to come up to the first ascender, and then we're going to universal line of beauty from there back down to the baseline, and then we're going to anti-universal line of beauty up to the second ascender, and a little bit of pressure at the end. So okay. We're almost done. We're almost done. All right. Drop to mark off an X height. The X is a lobe into like a anti-spiral. And then the other side is like a giant spiral. So we're going from the first ascender down to the X height, up to the second ascender, down to the baseline, and then we're going from the second ascender down to the baseline, up to the X height, and then into the quarter. And this one should have been thinner, so sort of like that. And we go hard down, light up, hard down, light up, hard, light, and then a little bit of pressure at the end. So that is the X. The Y is kind of like a U, so we're going to do a little bit of pressure release, up around, a little bit of pressure in the middle, and then we're going to go up to the second ascender, a little bit of pressure, release, and do an upstroke. So a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release, upstroke. Okay. And then the Z is kind of like an X, so we're going to do an X stroke. And then we're going to hop up and then go into a Z stroke, into an upstroke. So a little bit of pressure release, A little bit of pressure release, a little bit of pressure release, upstroke. And these baselines are all over the place. There, we're almost to the... Oh, I did it right on all three of them. All four of them, I didn't even notice. So, there we go. And there, we've done the whole alphabet. What do you think about that? What do you think about that, Hobbs? What do you think? All right, let's do a word. Let's do Kim. So Kim will do low compound curve, universal line of unity down to the baseline, up light, little bit of pressure, 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 little bit of pressure. And there you go. And then when we do obs, let's see, I'll put it here. So obs, we go up light, a little bit of pressure, 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 up, over, around, a little bit of pressure, a little bit of pressure, a little bit of pressure, and up. And there you go. What do you think about that? So, now we can put these things into practice. Oops, you can't see what I'm doing, sorry. And there you go. With a little bit of practice, you can do it too. So that's all I've got for today. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. I hope that you learned something. Please share this video with your friends. Follow me on social media. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the little bell. Make sure it's set to all, so when I upload new content, YouTube notifies you. And I will be back very soon with another video. So take care until then. Okay, love you, bye. Have a great day.